Okay, Year 7, welcome to the first part of the tutorial to create the Ghost Shooter game. Now, we're actually going to do this in a couple of parts just so that we can work out how to create the game, remembering that these little tutorial lessons should only take you 25 to 30 minutes within your allocated period of time. So, just a reminder to cap off what we did when we were in our team meetings last lesson. We went off and we made our accounts for Construct 3. I got you to bookmark this page, so the editor.construct.net page. If you have not done so, could you please do so now? This is the page you are going to go to every single time you have a lesson with me. So make sure it's up and running. It will look like this. If you haven't done it before, it should ask you about a guided tour. Just say no. I'm going to work through this with you, so you don't need a tour from the actual program. Okay, so first things first. I actually need you to download the sprites. So if you could open up a Moodle page and make sure you go to Computer Studies. Remembering, obviously, you guys are Year 7, so you're going to go into Year 7. If you scroll all the way down until you get to Basic Programming Topic, you will find two things. First things first, if you come down to where it says Beginner Guide Assets, click into this folder. It's a little folder, Beginner Guide Assets, and it should appear like so. These are our sprites. So a sprite for a game is a moving object within the game. So if we think about when you guys tried the game that we're going to create, your player should move around, the monsters are moving towards you, the explosions appear once you've hit a monster, a bullet moves from the gun in your player's hand all the way to where you've shot it, and then you also have a background. So these are sprites. I know most people, when I say sprite, think of the drink. That's not what we're going with. We're going with game terminology. So this is something that I would suggest we try and remember like a little definition for. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So, sprites, moving objects, these are the sprites. So, bullet, explosion, monster, player are sprites. Now, if you could please, we are going to download this folder. And if you wait a moment, it should open up for you. Now, if you're on a Mac, obviously this is going to look a little bit different. I am on a Windows computer, so it's going to look slightly different. If you go to your downloads folder, and you will see a folder that has a zip on it. If you're on a Mac, you are going to double click and it should open up the folder. If you are on a Windows computer, you are going to right click, so 2-finger click, so it brings up this bar on the side, and you are going to go to extract all, please. And we're going to extract it. You will notice then there is the one with the zipper on it, and then next to it will be one without the zipper. This is the one you want to keep. If we can please drag this to your desktop. There we go. Just click, hold, drag, and pull it out to your desktop for me, please. Alright. Okay, so I have mine just here. So beginner guides asset, and then it's just got a whole bunch of numbers. That's fine. If you have a folder that is specifically for your 4th assessment task in computer studies, you can pop it in there. Just make sure it's somewhere you are going to remember where it is. I'm just putting mine on my desktop just so that I know exactly where it is. Alright, coming back to here. Once you've done that, we can get rid of Moodle completely. So that can go. There we go. And you can just have your construct page open. Alright, first things first. Creating a new page. So we actually have to create a new project that we can work in. So first things first, we're going to click the new project button. You can call it what you want, maybe your first name, not your last name, just so that, you know, we know whose is who once we download them. And I want you to keep everything else the same. Make sure you don't change any of this. Make sure you don't change the viewport size, don't change the orientation. Start with, we want to keep everything the same. And then once you've chosen your name, just hit create. And then we wait for it to load. Okay, this is the editor of Construct. So, the white bit is the page that you work on. We call this a layout. So this is your layout. You'll notice at the top here there's like little tabs. So this is where you started. This is the layout page. So this is the white page that we're going to work on. And then we also have something called an event sheet. Now, we'll get to the event sheet in later tutorials. For now, we're going to stick with the layout. At the moment, we're very zoomed in on this page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Control. If you're on a Mac, it's Command. And I'm going to hit the minus button just to zoom out of my page a little bit so that I can see my entire page. So remember, that was Control or Command if you're on a Mac, and then the minus button, that should zoom you out slightly. Just so you can see the whole page. Now, you will also notice within this page there is a dotted line. That is what we call a viewport. So that's what shows once you've played your game. Leave that how it is for now. Okay, you also have two bars along the side here. The first bar on the left-hand side when viewing your screen is what we call your properties bar. So in this bar, we can see things like the name of your tab, like you can call it something else if you want, just I would keep it layout 1 so we don't get confused. What event sheet it's connected to, which is the code we're going to give our game. Leave that the way it is. You got the size of the page, and then we've got a whole other type of things like your margins and things like that. We will have a play around with this. So just remember that this side of the screen is the properties bar. Easy way to know, up the top it says properties. So we shouldn't forget. On the other side of the screen, I'll just make it a little bit bigger, is your project and your layers bar. So your project bar shows you everything that you've added to your game. If you've added sprites, there should be you have all your sprites on the side here. It's basically just like a folder that shows every little thing that's in your game. At the moment, all we have is a layout and an event sheet, and you can see that here. So you've got your layout, which is what we're on right now, and the event sheet, which I just showed you, is up the top here. If you accidentally close these tabs at the top, really simple, just double click, it should reopen them up the top here. Same with the event sheet. Down the bottom here, you have layers. Now, remembering layers are the exact same as they would be in Photoshop or InDesign or any program we've used. Anything on the top is on top of your actual working space. So think about like paper cutouts. If you cut something out, you will see straight through to the next layer. Now, the one thing is, because we are working with a free version of Construct, we can only create 2 layers. So you've got to be really careful. We're going to be working on one layer for a while until we get way further into the tutorial. So make sure we're not adding new layers, because you'll eventually hit a point where you won't be able to do the rest of the tutorial. Okay, so for today's lesson, all we're going to get you to do is just to get your sprites into your game. We can do this really simply. I just want you to follow along with me so far. So if you double click on your layout page, it should bring up a box like so. So remember, double clicking 2 clicks in a row. And it will bring up this box. So it says create new object type. Now, the first thing we're going to bring in is actually our background. So if you can either scroll down or you can type it into the search bar, we want to go to tiled background. We want the tiled one so that we can actually stretch it and it should tile across the page. So double click on tile background. You will notice now that my cursor is now like a crosshair, so that's just like the plus sign. That means that you've got something attached to it. So it's no longer the little cursor icon, we have a little plus. If you just click once, it will appear with this box. Now this is like the editor for your sprites. So first things first, we actually have to open up the sprite. So you'll notice this says, this is like a new page. If you hover over them, it actually shows you exactly what each one is. The second one in from the top, the little folder, that is your open button. So this is your load. We want to go and open. That should open up your files. Now, we want to go into your beginner's guides folder and find the little picture that says background. And then once you've done that, you're going to open. Now, it should appear like so. You'll see it's a little rocky surface, and it should be good. Now, you don't have to go off and save this. All we want to do is hit the exit button for this little box. So this one here. If we click that, it should appear on your page. Next things next is we want to make this bigger. So we want to make it stretch the entire page. So if we bring it up into the top corner, and then you take the corner of one of the sides of the square, click hold on your mouse or your keypad, and drag it out until it takes up the entire page. Now, it's okay if you accidentally go over a bit. You won't see that. Just be mindful, though, that this line here, you can see really closely in there, there is a black line. That's the edge of your page. So anything that goes off the page, you won't see in your game. So we'll just make that the size of the page, just so that we don't get confused. Now, once you've clicked off, it should go and turn into its original color. The next thing we're going to do is we are actually going to lock your background into place, just so that it doesn't move around whilst you're trying to do other things. So if you click on your background and then 2-finger click for a right click, we are going to go and click lock and then just click lock section. That means that I can no longer move my background around. Just makes it easier. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a sprite in. So remembering the sprites are your player, your bullet, your monster, and your explosion. So if you again double click, should open up this tab. But this time we're going to scroll down until we hit the sprite. So this guy's a little space invader. We want to click on him and hit insert. Again, we've got the little crosshairs, a little plus sign. Click once to open up the sprite editor. And then we want to open again. So same thing we did before. Open up. And we want to put your player in. So you got your little player. And then exit once your player's in. And you'll notice your player is now in the game. I want you to do that exact same thing for your monster, your bullet, and your explosion. So remembering, double click, sprite, plus, open, monster. And just keep going until you've got all 4 on the page. And it should look like so. Now just remember your bullet's going to be really small because obviously the size of a bullet compared to everything else is going to be small. You should have your explosion, your player, your monster, and then your tiny little bullet on your page. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a mouse, and then we're also going to add in your keyboard. Now, the great thing about Construct is that it's got a lot of things that work with just adding them in, rather than having to sit here and code stuff in. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add in the mouse. So again, if you double click because we're adding something, and then if you scroll down until you find the mouse, it should be in the input, double click on the mouse and it should say mouse added and it should appear over the side here. I want you to do the exact same thing for the keyboard. So double click, scroll down, see keyboard. You will notice that the mouse is gone because you've already added it. You can't add it a second time. Your keyboard, you're going to go in, it should say added keyboard. So if I go double check, you will notice that both the keyboard and the mouse are missing from the input tab. Okay. The last thing we are going to do this lesson is we are actually going to save our work. Now, super duper important that you guys save your work as often as you can. We don't want to accidentally lose our work of any kind. The good thing is when we save our work, we're actually going to save it to Google Drive, so that no matter where you are, no matter what computer you are on, you will always have your work. So if you use your mouse and you just come up to where it says menu and click, you should have like a little drop down box that appears. You're then going to go to project. If you hover over it, it should bring up another bar. And then there's two save options. I need you to go to save as. Now, we want to go to where it says cloud save. So if we click on the little cloud, it should open up another box. You then need to log into your Google Drive with your school account. So I've got mine here already set up. You might just have to sign in. It will be your school email and then your school password to sign in. So just click for me. And then you'll have to sign into school like normal. So I will sign in. And then log in. Okay, wait for it to load. Now once it's loaded, yep, this is just asking you if you want it to have permission. Just hit continue down the bottom. And then, just hit the tick box. My apologies. Hit the tick box and then click continue. And then you should have this little button that appears. You will notice that the things that are in here should be the things that are already in your Google Drive. So first things first, we are going to create a new folder by going to the second button up the top here. It looks like a little folder with a plus. I'm going to create a new folder. You are going to call this Computer Studies Year 7. And you're going to hit OK. You are then going to find that folder that you just created, which is right here. You're going to double click on it to open it. There should be nothing inside that folder. You are then going to hit save. So it should be saved there. You will notice it's saved by the little thing that appears in the bottom corner. You'll also notice that this button here is no longer black, it's now grey. That means that you've saved correctly.